Hello, my name is Daniel from Kaneki Foundation Coding Division, and we'll be going over USACO problem 2016 December Bronze, problem number 1, SquarePasture. Now, this is going to be more of like a simpler USACO problem that you've seen, so hopefully you'll be able to pick up, and I'll be able to finish this quickly. Farmer John has decided to update his farm to simplify his geometry. Previously, his cows grazed on two rectangular fenced-in pastures. Farmer John would like to replace this with a single square fenced-in pasture, not rectangle, square, of minimum size that still covers all the regions that were previously enclosed by the formal two fences. Please help Farmer John figure out the minimum area he needs to make his new square pasture, so that if he places it appropriately, he'll be able to cover all the area formerly covered by two older rectangular pastures. It's kind of repeating the same thing I said before. Square pastures should have sides parallel to the x and y axis, meaning no like crooked lines. Input format, we see here, first line input is going to be one of the original rectangles, which is x1, y1, x2, y2. In which it is the lower left corner and the upper right corner. And we know that x2 is greater than x1 and y2 is greater than y1. So kind of to explain that, what it's saying, for the first line of input, it's going to give us two numbers, x1, y1, or two sets of numbers, and x2, y2. And for these two numbers, if we have a graph, let's say x1, y1 is right here, x2, y2 is right here, we could build out a rectangle from this. And there's only one rectangle that could be built from this, right? And so that's how we're going to find the rectangle when given these four numbers. Coming back to the problem, the second line will have the same four-integral format as the first line, and it gives the second original pasture. So it's going to give a second rectangle, in which let's say it's like here, and it's going to give another rectangle that looks something like this. And our job is to find the smallest square, meaning all the sides are congruent, smallest square that encloses all of these, which might look something like that, where all of these sides are the same length. Awesome. Okay, so the thing that I just showed you is basically how we're going to solve the problem, but obviously we're going to have to do a bit more thinking. The input, as I said, is going to look like this. Output is just going to be the area, meaning one number. It's not asking for the coordinates of the square or anything else fancy, just the area, which is going to be length of the side squared. So let's come to the notepad here. How we're going to solve this problem? Well, there's a few ways we could do it. First way, very inefficient, would not recommend. Draw out every single square. I'm just going to skip over that. Obviously, you shouldn't be doing that. It's going to take way too long. And second of all, I mean, there's smarter ways to think through the problem, right? The second way that I could think of is maybe finding the minimum and the maximum of the x and y values, right? So this is going to be kind of like our foundation for what we're going to be doing next. If we could see here, this x value and this x value is going to be the minimum and maximum. And this y value and this y value is going to be minimum and maximum. That means that we need to include everything that is in this rectangle here. And we find a square that is enclosing all of this area. So how are we going to do that? Well, to be honest, it's a pretty simple next section. Let's say this height was 20. And let's say this length right here of the rectangle was 16. Then what must the square be? 20 times 20. Making the square that I drew before, which covers all of this. Okay, so let's kind of put that into code terms. When we're given x1 and x2 and then another x1 and another x2, we're going to look for the smallest x min and x max. Let's say, yeah, like that. And from those two, we're going to have two areas here that we could fill out. We're going to do the same thing with y min and y max, and we're going to have the two sides right there. And through those two, what we're going to do is find the length of the x, which is this distance here. That's going to be x2 minus x1, meaning x side. And y side is going to be equal to y2 minus y1. And with these numbers, we're going to take which one is the greatest maximum of x2 minus x1, comma, y2 minus y1, and then we're going to square it because we're finding the square. And so that'll give us the area. Answer equals such. Okay, this video is a bit blurry, I know, but let's get to coding this. Open VS Code as always. If you have another thing that you code in, maybe like Eclipse or anything else, it's all good. Let's go into, let's just go into that. Open this, make a file. And the problem name was SquarePasture. Oh, you guys can't see what I'm doing. Just a second. Let me just make a file. And then let me make it so you guys could see this. Not that screen. I do not want you guys to see that screen. That one. Yes. There we go. VS Code. And I want you guys to be able to see me, so I'll move it like that. There we go. We're in VS Code. And hopefully you're able to see the code that I'm writing without being too terrible. Obviously we're going to have a public static void, main class. And in these problems, it's kind of just nice to have to just import everything you need. And I mean, this is not the most efficient because you don't need a lot of this stuff, but it doesn't really matter your code that much. It might take a bit more memory, but it should be fine. So if we look at this problem here, we're just gonna start with the input, right? For input, I just kind of have that saved. I want to have that just, you know, wait. What do you mean called or declared? What do you want? Oh, yes. IO exception. That is not his build rows. There you go. So we need to have that there. That's just buffer reader, print writer. If you don't know what they do, search it up before continuing the video because you will need it for most USACO problems. I mean, nowadays you could use just scanner, but it is faster than scanner, so it is nice to have, right? So serializes file IO, stuff like you're gonna do input with initial variables. What are the initial variables that we have? Obviously we have int, and then we have x1. No. Yeah, we could do x1, but then there's gonna be two x1s, right? So let's say we call it a x1 equals to 0, let's say, and then bx1 equals 0. No, that is not what I want to do. A y1, yes. And then we're gonna do the same thing again, but then this time the 1 is gonna be a 2. And we're going to do the same thing again, except this time it's going to be b, showing that it's the second square. Cool. We have all our variables, and from here we're just going to go. We're just going to go equals to br.nextToken or breed, I guess. But I forgot we also need string tokenizer here. That next token. Yes, that will give us the first token, which is the first string, not divided by a space. Why is that giving me an error? Ah, yes. String dot int, or this is why you need the internet when you're coding. Turn string into int Java integer value of, yes. That parse int. Even like the basic stuff like this, if you code for a while, you might just blink on, so it's nice to have the internet. During USACO, you're allowed to use the internet, obviously, so it is a very nice thing to have. And we're going to do this again, and then take in the next line of input. Okay, we have all our inputs. Now, what do we say we're going to do? We said that we should, as it says in the notebook here, take the xmin and xmax. And to do that, we're going to look at the integers here. We're going to say, we're going to make a new variable, okay? Important variables. Int x max equals 2. What we're going to say is math.maximum of ax1, ax2. I mean, bx2. Because we know that ax2 is greater than ax1. And we know that bx2 is greater than bx1. Oh, that should be 1. Okay. And we also need an xmin. Oh, those are switched. So it should be like this actually. Xmax, max, and those will be 2 and 2. And for these, we're next gonna do ymin and ymax, which will give us these 4 variables. And now we have the 4 variables that we said we're gonna get, which are the xmin, xmax, ymin, and ymax. And now we have to find the sides. the sides here are going to be pretty simple. As I said, we're going to say int x side is equal to x max minus x min. We don't need to worry about it being negative because obviously max is greater than min. And int y side is equal to y max minus y min. And just look at this code. It's all initializing variables. Usually problems aren't like this, but it just happens that it just works out this way. Looking at these, we're going to do, finally, if statement. Wow, logic. We're going to do x side is greater than y side. And if x side is greater than y side, what are we going to do? We're going to print, or we're going to, put as output what x side squared is, because we want the square area, right? So pw.print, then, and we're going to do x side, and then times x side. You could do squared with the mass function if you want. You don't really need to do that here. And obviously here is going to be y side times y side. And this should give us the correct answer if we put the semicolon. And then we're going to pw.close, because you always need to do that with print writer. It's just good practice. And if we save here, let's test. Let me pull up the... Where's the terminal go? Where has the terminal gone? Technical difficulties, they happen. No, that is not it. Okay, where in the world did... You know what? Okay. I'm gonna run through the actual terminal. I'm going to go to Java coding. And then I'm going to copy, and I'm going to look at this and say, okay, we're going to go to /cd /Java coding. Okay, why is there no Java coding? There we go. And from here, we're going to go into SquarePasture. So Java SquarePasture. This is how you compile. There we go. And then after we compile Java, we're gonna just run it. I see. We're gonna add a file for the input. We're gonna do a square. Okay, we're gonna do a new file. Here we go. And for this, let's just put in the sample. We're gonna do the same thing again. No, that's not saved. If we save this, there we go. And now I should have made a square that out where it gives us 49, which is the correct answer that we had here. Okay, let's put it into here. By the way, learning to use the terminal is very important, especially if you want to go into different things like Linux. Like, all this is very similar to Linux. This is how I learned it. And so, some syntax might be a little bit different, but it's mostly the same. Okay. Yeah, and it gives you a good kind of idea of... Okay, I'm good. Gives you a good idea of how files work in your computer, where they are in general. And grading process, it gives us all correct, submitted. There are definitely better solutions. You could look at, for example, the solution that they give you here, which is basically the same thing, except they use a for loop instead of doing it twice. And obviously here they did desired length squared by doing this and all that. It's the same solution. It's a pretty simple problem. Hopefully you were able to follow along. After this video, if you didn't follow along, I would suggest you solve it by yourself. And that'll be it for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.